Hello and good morning, Northfield. My name is Savannah.
And I'm Josh, and we are so happy to have you with us today.
Yes, whether you're joining us here in the house or you're watching from home or maybe you're still at the beach, we're so glad that you are here this morning. And Josh, we have a lot of events coming up.
Yes, I am so excited.
Yes, especially with Next Gen. We have so many events.
What's the first event coming up that you want to share about, Sav?
I think I want to talk about our Easter egg hunt or our egg extravaganza, as I said last week.
It's going to be excellent.
It is going to be on April 9th. It's that Saturday before Easter. There are so many things happening that day.
I hear there's going to be carnival games.
An egg hunt, of course.
Yes, multiple egg hunts for different age groups. And we even have an egg hunt scheduled for our friends with special needs, which we're super excited about this year.
That's going to be from 2 to 4 p.m. There's lots to do. You can still volunteer today, and you can volunteer for any of these events just by going to the events tab and signing up today. Josh, what's something else that's coming up?
We are so thankful that after 2 years of not being able to have this event, that we are able to have our parent-child dedication, formerly known as Baby Day, but we're going to be able to have this event again. We're so excited. We've got classes coming up, leading up beforehand. We're going to give you opportunity to take your pictures, but on May 7th, we're going to have our parent-child dedication today. It is going to be an awesome opportunity for parents to dedicate their children into the ways of the Lord and just letting the world know, I'm going to raise this child according to God's will, to the best of my ability. And it's a great time for us to come and celebrate all the new babies and all the babies and the kids that have not had an opportunity to go through this yet. What else? Oh, my shirt.
Your outfit should have that one.
This whole fit should have let me know, but if this outfit does not scream beach camp, I do not know what does.
No.
Beach camp, Panama City Beach for our students. 6th grade have completed. 6th grade to 12th grade is going on June 6th through June 10th. Save that date. Registrations will be open soon. Don't worry, we're working out some final details, but you do not want to miss out on beach camp.
Yeah, and there's other events too that are coming up just those following 2 weeks after. Our first one is VBS. That is June 12th through the 15th. It's a Sunday through a Wednesday. That is for completed, actually no, it's for 4-year-olds through completed 5th grade. So our older preschoolers through our 5th graders. It is going to be an awesome event. Our theme is Make Waves. You can register today on the events tab. And another event, it's my favorite week of the year, and it is Kids Camp. That is going to be June 19th through the 23rd. Yes, at Valley View. Our completed kindergartners through completed 6th grade can come. Completed kindergarten through 2nd graders are day campers, and then completed 3rd through 6th is overnight. So you can register today. Like Josh said, still working out a few kinks just to get our prices and everything like that out of the way, but you can still register and just put that in your calendar.
Is going to be the gauntlet of awesome for all Next Gen things here at Northfield. We are so excited that you're here today with us. We can't wait to see you and worship alongside you. You have a beautiful day.
I've been running in circles, jumping the hurdles, getting caught in that rush of doing so much, feeling kinda worn out. All this checking the boxes and trying to be flawless has me spinning my head and catching my breath, too afraid to slow down. I tell myself, keep this up, God wants more than just my love. I've been complicating things, it's just like me to sing it out. Keep it real simple, keep it real simple, bring everything right back to ground zero, 'cause it all comes down to this: love God and love people. We're living in a world that keeps breaking, but if we wanna find a way to change it, it all comes down to this: love God and love people. Oh, this is freedom, the keys to the kingdom. Knowing life will be found when love can be loud, 'cause love is what it's all about. I tell myself, keep this up, then all God wants is just my love. No more complicating things, no more need to overthink. Gotta keep it real simple, keep it real simple, bring everything right back to ground zero, 'cause it all comes down to this: love God and love people. We're living in a world that keeps breaking, and if we wanna find a heals hearts and changes lives. Love is all we need to make things right. Gotta keep it real simple. Oh, it's really so simple. Let me hear you sing that chorus. Gotta keep it real simple. Keep it real simple. Bring everything right back to ground zero. 'Cause it all comes down to this: love God and love people. We're living in a world that keeps breaking, but if we wanna find a way to change it, it all comes down to this: love God and love people. Love God and love people.
Well, hey guys, good morning. I hope you're doing well today. You can go ahead and take a seat. My name is Josh, and I'm one of the pastors here, and I just wanted to say welcome to NorthField Church this morning. Our mission is to love God, love people, and to make Jesus known. And so everything you see today, it's the reason we exist. It's why we do what we do, is about that mission statement. And so we are glad that you are here with us today. And if you're watching with us online, we're super glad that you're here too. Thanks for tuning in today. We love you guys. Wish you could be here, but thanks for tuning in. Well, guys, we have some awesome opportunities that you can do right from your seat today. And we would love, the first of those is, we tell you every single week that you can check in, right? It actually does go to do some good. We use our advertising dollars to partner with a company that our advertising dollars go towards these projects. And so we use check-ins as basically that. We want to just provide a way that we can do some good just by being on the internet, right? So we hope that today you'll take out your phone, snap a selfie with somebody that's right beside you, and post that you're here today, because it does a little bit of good in the world every single time you do it. And hey, while you have your phone out, we would love for you to check out the digital connection card. You can either scan it on the seat back in front of you, or if you're watching online, you can go to the website or app and find that. We would love for you guys to check that resource out, because it's really the way to connect with all things Northfield. Whether you're wanting to join a group, whether you want to be a part of a study, join a ministry, all of that is found right there. And actually, I'm really excited about one of the opportunities that we have on there this week. It's something that has been in the works, and we've been planning, and off the coattails of this past series that we talked about just some of our life hurts and how to develop spiritually through those life hurts. We have just seen the need in our church for some specialized groups that we can have that really focus on some of our life hurts. And so we're going to be launching care groups on April 10th, and it's going to be right here on Sundays. It's going to be down in the adult hallway down in NFU, and we're going to have ones for grief. I have the opportunity here to counsel and sit with a lot of our people that come in and need a little extra help. And one of the things that I counsel people most for here is grief, because we've all lost loved ones, right? And there is no 1 + 1 = 2 in grief. It looks different for everyone. And so we have a specialized group that's going to be starting to support you through your grief. We also know just how many people that the word miscarriage has touched. Haley and I came into her office several months back when I was thinking about this, and I said, hey, I'm thinking about starting these care groups. What would you think if I started one for miscarriage recovery? I said, how many people would that reach? She started listing off names, like one after the other of people who have been touched by that. And so we're going to have someone right here at NorthField that has walked that journey, that wants to walk with you. And we're also going to have divorce care for women. We're going to be starting divorce care for men a little bit further down the road. But my wife and I, we're a blended family. We have both been through the pain of divorce, and so we know that feeling. And so so what we want to do is be a church that walks alongside you. And so you can check that box on the digital connection card, or you can go to the events tab and sign up directly for that. But we would love for you guys to be a part of that, of people caring for other people, right? It doesn't have to be the pastors up here doing the work. It's you guys loving on each other. So we hope you'll plug into that opportunity, guys. Well, hey, we're going to jump back into worship right now. And so why don't we stand together and we're going to jump in.
Go ahead and enter in this time of worship. Right now, Jesus, I just pray that you enter in this place, God. That we're able to give you our hearts. God, that no matter what we're going through in this place, God, that we can offer it up to you. We worship with us today. Walking around these walls, I thought by now but you have never failed me yet. Waiting for change, waiting for change to come, knowing the battles we've seen, for you have never failed me yet. Oh, we'll sing. Because of this, your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence, you never fail me yet. You won't forget. Your word will come to pass. My heart will sing your praise again. Oh, sing out, Jesus, you're still enough. Keep me down, keep me within your love. My heart will sing your praise again. And we sing as one, a promise.
Father, that song is really the story of our lives. That God, would you, in all of the ways that you have been faithful to us before, I'm thankful that we can look at our current circumstances and we can look at our future hopes and we can know that you are a God that is for us. And as we walk or maybe wander through the wilderness that is life, would we be people that learn to look back at what you have done before? That we are people who learn to look at who you have been, and what it does is, well, it reframes the way that we see you right now. And Father, we long for the eternity that we get to spend with you. And I'm thankful that through your Son, Jesus, you have sealed our destiny. And it is in that future that we have hope. And it is in that future that we take our life right now. And so God, we love you. And together as your church, we say, amen. Hey, you guys, if you're in the house, you can go ahead and have a seat. I'm thankful that you guys are joining us today, whether you're here live in the house, you're tuned in on the live stream, or you're catching up a little bit later in the week. My name is Trent. I'm one of the pastors here at NorthField. It's great to be with you again this week. Just bear with my voice. I don't know if anybody else is going through that whole, like, it's hot outside, then it's cold outside, like we're doing the hokey pokey with spring weather, right? We're in, we're out, we're in, we're out, and it's just shaking my voice all about. Zing, there we go. I got my green tea over here. Shout out to the coffee shop out there. So if you need a little pick-me-up, you can go see them out there and know that all that money that's going towards that, the proceeds to that goes straight into our mission of loving God, loving people, and making Jesus known, whether that's local projects that we do around here or internationally, just in some of the ways that we partner with different ministries. But your coffee money goes to that, and we're thankful for it. I'm glad that you guys are here. A couple of announcements as we jump in. I'm excited about all of the Easter festivities that are coming around the bend for us in just a couple of weeks. Haley, my wife, is one of the people that's helping oversee our annual Easter egg hunt. And so I know many of you are planning on being there, planning on being a part of it. But what we would love from you is that you also would consider serving and volunteering, being a part of that day as well. We talked yesterday that there's a need in the carnival games type. So if you're a carny in your past life, then this probably isn't for you. But there's some carnival games that are going on that you and your family or maybe your small group could help us host. All you need to do is just an hour slot. So it's a 2-hour event, so just an hour slot. So you can do an hour serving, and then you can do an hour with your family and friends, experience all that we have for you in that Easter egg hunt. But here's what I want you to know about the Easter egg hunt. Yes, it is a community event. Yes, it's something that's fun. But that event is really designed to show our community what we want them to know about us. There's a lot of organizations that are known for what they're against. There's a lot of people that are known for what they're against. But us as a church, what we want to be known for, especially in our community, is what we are for and who we are for. And so we want to leverage this egg hunt as really an opportunity to say that we are for our community. And let me tell you, you, where's the camera? You guys are the biggest ambassadors that we have to showing our community that. And so I hope that you're planning on being there, introducing yourself to some unfamiliar faces at that event. But also, if you want to serve and be a part of that event as well, you will be doing a tremendous good right here in our community. And then also, I hope that you're considering, some of you prayerfully considering, being a part of our Good Friday night of worship. We are turning that into a baptism celebration, because the reason that day is, that we call that day Good Friday, is because we know how the story goes, that we know that Jesus, in that night when he was on trial and he was crucified and put to death, well, that wasn't the end of the story. And so for you, your life up to date, it may have been a story that, you wouldn't have written for yourself, but through baptism, what you're signifying to the world is that your old self is gone, that you're pledging allegiance and that you are living a new life and walking in a new life from that day forward. And so if you want to be a part of that day, let us know. Sign up on that digital connection card, or come and see one of us at the Iman Station or the Green Room. We would love to partner with you and be a part of that journey with you as well. So hey, last week we started a kind of a 2-week detour in our Blessed Life series that we're just calling this little mini series, Lessons from the Wilderness. And as we experienced in last week is that all of us at some point or another are going to walk through a wilderness, or more maybe aptly put, we're going to wander through a wilderness and kind of feeling our way through the darkness at times. But But in this wilderness setting that takes place as we're diving into it, takes place after the Exodus. So if you've got a Bible and you open it up, you go Genesis is the first book of the Bible. It means the beginning. It's a great place to start. The second book there is Exodus, and Exodus is just an action-packed book that you have the people of God, the children of Israel, they're freed from slavery, and for the first time that they're able to walk in freedom. And the first time is really as an established nation, they walk in freedom. But in that, you realize it takes a day to get the children of Israel out of Egypt, but it took a little bit longer to get Egypt out of the children of Israel. And so if you're looking for a kind of in-between books right now, or you need something to read, like let me tell you, Exodus is an incredible action-packed journey. There's not really a boring section of this book. It's just, I'm telling you, if you're needing to add a little bit of reading, you can. Or if you're wanting a kind of a study alongside of that, Tom, actually a couple years ago, we went through a good chunk of the life of Moses that kind of started in Exodus. And so if you want to be a part of just adding that study into your life, make sure you go find that on the app. You can see it in the media section there. Just scroll. You'll find a series on there called Moses that you can listen through, read through that as well. But in that, we're kind of zooming in and taking out some chunks of wisdom, some bits of wisdom that we can apply to us right here and right now, even though we may not be physically walking through the wilderness like the children of Israel did. In a lot of ways, there are some similarities to that. And so if you weren't here last week, that's okay. I'm gonna catch you up to speed a little bit. The way that we defined a wilderness was basically this, is the experience when something changes externally, and it gives you this feeling of being lost internally, that something outside of your control happens, and it could be a wide array of experiences. We know this, we've seen this, that there's a number of experiences that can cause us to feel lost on the inside. And you can go down the list of your life, you can go down the list probably of your experiences of what has led you to your particular wilderness moment. But despite how you got there, there are some common feelings, there's some common emotions, there's some common trends that we have when it comes to walking or wandering through a wilderness. The first we said was that there's no definitive end, right? In our heads, we know at some point our wilderness will come to an end. It's not gonna be permanent, but in the wilderness, I think we have a way of tricking ourselves or sometimes lying to ourselves of saying that this will be how life goes forever, that this is our new normal, that this is permanent. And then with a wilderness, it just tells us like there's no real end in sight. The next common experience is that with wilderness moments comes this realization that you don't know everything, or that you don't know everything that you thought you knew. And in that, the wilderness has a way of humbling you, but humbling you in a good way, and really being able to humble you and teach you lessons that you probably would not have learned otherwise, or had you gone your own way, or had you written the story yourself, that you wouldn't have gotten there. The third kind of common experience that we all face in the wilderness is oftentimes the wilderness is accompanied with feelings of emptiness, of loneliness, of being uncomfortable. It has just a sense of being disorienting at times, that it doesn't matter how you got there. Chances are these are some of the experiences that you're gonna feel. And in that, if we were writing the story of our lives, well, we probably wouldn't write in an uncomfortable moment. We probably wouldn't write in a disorienting moment, because if we were writing the story for our lives, well, we want the good. We want the easy. We want the comfortable, but in life, it's really not anything that we're ever promised in life as well. And so in that, as we walk through, I just want to tell you, I was kind of taken back, but in a really great way, just over the last week, of just the number of you, whether you're in our life group or we sat at a coffee shop this week, or just being able to hear some of your stories and some of your wilderness moments. And it was a reminder to me that man, that lie that we buy into is that we're the only one that's walking the wilderness. That we buy that lie that says we're the only one that is going through whatever set of circumstances we may be facing, or we think I'm the only one that understand. You wouldn't get it. Man, I just was reminded this week by so many of you that is not always the case. And really that's never the case, that we don't wander alone. That what we experience in this life, chances are there is somebody that has walked through a similar path and is willing to walk alongside us in that as well. And so if you were one of those people, I just kind of two things. I want to say, hey, thank you. Thank you for just being vulnerable and just being willing to be open about your story and your journey. It was impactful to me, and I know just being able to share that is just an incredible thing. But the other side, as it shows me, is that the wilderness doesn't discriminate. The wilderness don't care about your race, class, gender. It don't matter at all. The wilderness is really going to happen to each of us. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. That we are going to face wilderness moments in our lives. But yet, the question becomes, what do we do when we get there? What do we do when we find ourselves in the wilderness? And I'm just gonna say, if you're here today and you weren't here last week, and as I'm talking about this, you're like, yep, like, dude, that is so me right now. I would encourage you, if you missed last week, find 35 minutes in your week to go back and find that. You can find it on YouTube, you can find it on the app, but go find that 35 minutes to go and just explore and see, because here is the promise. God has something for you in the wilderness. God has something for you in the wilderness. I know there are seasons where it seems dry. I know there are seasons where it seems like nothing good can come from these wilderness moments, but I assure you that God has you and he has something for you in the wilderness moments of your life. But now, for today, we're gonna continue in this little mini series that we're in. We're gonna be in Deuteronomy chapter 8. If you have a Bible with you and you wanna go to that, it's the 5th book in the Old Testament. So if you start at the beginning, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, that's where you'll find it. We'll be in Deuteronomy chapter 8 if you want to follow along. I'll have it on the screen for us as well as we kind of read through a good chunk of that chapter as well. But if you are a note taker kind of person and you want to get there, you can. But I love the book of Deuteronomy because really the book of Deuteronomy is a book of remembrance and looking ahead, right? It's kind of this, what we're in right now. It's being able to look back. It's Moses recounting and recapping really the story of the Exodus and the wilderness experience for the children of Israel. He relays all of the commandments that God has given and all of these practices and all of really what the children of Israel are taking from the wilderness and taking with them into the promised land. And he does this in really just a real and a raw emotional way. If you've ever read the book of Deuteronomy, you can kind of see and watch Moses' own emotions kind of ebb and flow through that. Moses is one that gets lumped in. Anybody ever been guilty by association? Well, Moses does, and you hear him, he talks about it, that because of the unfaithfulness of the Israelite people, he gets lumped into it. And he's like, I didn't even do anything. Like, these are your people, God. But it's like, well, you're the one in charge. And so you kind of get lumped into that as well. And so you see Moses' anger in there. But again, it's just a very real, raw human experience of recounting this story. I kind of liken it to, this was the Deuteronomy's kind of the team meeting before the week of prep for the Super Bowl, right? But only bigger, because it's just like, look, there's a lot of things that have taken place to get us to this moment, and there's a little bit more that we have left to go and to conquer. But for right now, we need to realize and establish and take heart into what we are taking with us into the future. That's kind of what Deuteronomy is all about. So we're zooming into Deuteronomy chapter 8, and this is how it starts in Deuteronomy 8, verse 1. Moses says, the whole commandment that I've commanded you today, you should be very careful to do. And there's a result to this, that you would be careful to keep these commandments so that you may live and multiply and go in and possess the land that the Lord swore to give your fathers, right? You would take care to listen to what I have told you, to listen to these commands, to internalize them in such a way that you would take them with you into the future. Not just, yeah, I got it, and then just kind of in one ear, out the other, right? That you would take this and you would take ownership of this. Because in the same way, you're going to go forward, that you are going to live and multiply, and you are going to go in and possess, right? What does it mean to possess? You own it. Every part of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, it is yours, and you become the executive producer on how good this is going to go by how you respond to this. That you are going to go in and possess the land that the Lord swore to give your fathers. And now, just a brief little detail, okay? Because what that one little verse, what I hope that it does for you is I hope that it gives you hope to know this simple truth. There will be a day that your wilderness moment will end. There will be a day that your wilderness moment will end. Again, in the wilderness, it's like, well, there is no end. I'm going to be in this forever. It's kind of like this fog moment that I'm living through, walking in, driving through. But in that, you know, at some point, the night won't last. At some point, the fog will go back. At some point, the storm clouds will leave. This is Moses saying, look, you need to know. You need to know. You need to know. Your wilderness moment will, at some point, come to an end. Now, here's the downside, okay? I'm not Moses, nor am I God, and I don't know when And I don't know how your wilderness moment will come to an end. And to be honest with you, I don't really know on this side of heaven if your wilderness moment will end, but I do know that at some point your wanderings will cease. And we'll get to that in just a moment. Because in verse 2, Moses continues. He says, and you shall remember, right? You shall remember the whole way that the Lord your God has led you these 40 years in the wilderness. And man, if there's something to take from that, that is God is faithful. That God is faithful, that God is faithful. I loved when we looked last week that it was a day by day God showing up. And this, as Moses kind of recapping it, it's like, look, we're on this side of the 40-year marker, but you need to remember that God has led you these 40 years, the entire time. But he continues, so there's a reason behind it. In verse 3, he says that he would humble you. And everybody's like, oh, do we have to? Like, do I have to be humbled? Like, yep, you do. That he might humble you, testing you to know what was in your heart. And don't get hung up on this word test right here, okay? Because I think sometimes we think test means that like God is just like this mad scientist and we're like the little lab rats that he's doing experiments on to see, is this one good, is this not? That's not the kind of testing that God is up to in this. It says that he might humble you and test you to know what was in your heart and to know whether you would keep his commandments or not. That's the kind of testing that God was after, because the call is to obedience. And the way that God knows that you are remembering his commandments is that you would keep his commandments. That if you are keeping his commandments, if you are living in the way that he has instructed you to live, well, that is a sign that you remember what the commandments even are in the first place. And so Moses, as he's outlining this, as he's kind of detailing them and preparing them for their next step, he's saying, look, the wilderness had a purpose. The wilderness had a plan and a job to do in your life. And it was to humble you. It was to teach you. It was to show you who God is in this moment. It continues. It says that he humbled you and he let you hunger, but he also fed you with manna. Manna that you didn't know, nor did your fathers know. That he might make you know that man does not live by bread alone. That yes, through the wilderness journey, God continued to feed you with manna, but God was doing more than just feeding you physically. God was doing more than just providing for you physically. He said, but the manna that you received from heaven, well, it had a purpose as well. It was to show you that man doesn't live by bread alone, but also that you live by every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. That you would learn not to just be thankful for the gift, but that you would learn to be thankful for the giver of the gift. And that it is every word that comes from the Lord that is what delivers you. But in this, know that it wasn't just food. There's another story, we'll look at it here in just a little bit. There's a reminder that Moses gives them that it was also water. That Moses takes his staff as he was instructed by God and he strikes this rock and it becomes a spring. And you think in a desert, a rock of all things is kind of going to be that fountain that you're going to get water from. That's the moment that happens. The next verse, Moses kind of recounts to me, tells them, your clothing didn't wear out. I mean, 40 years, like I got to buy new jeans like every 6 weeks it seems like. But he's like, your clothing didn't wear out. Your feet did not swell. Your shoes, they stayed. That God provided for them in more ways than just in the physical. That what it taught them was that God was a provider for them in the spiritual sense. That God was for them in a number of realms, and it teaches them to learn and to be a part of what God is up to. But it really comes down to what we landed on last week, was that you would be dependent in nature, not on yourself. Right, that we have this very self-reliant attitude towards us as human beings, but Moses is showing us, look, that this whole journey in the wilderness was not so that you would learn how to be dependent on you, but it's that you would learn to be dependent on God. And when you learn to be dependent on God, what you're met with is the very dependable nature of God. And that's what he demonstrates through this 40 years. And so then we're going to read, this is Deuteronomy 8:6-10. We're just kind of read this whole chunk together. He says, So you shall keep the commandments of the Lord your God by walking in his ways and by fearing him. It says, for the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land. You catch this? He is bringing, right? There's hope in that word, in that little phrase right there, that God is bringing. There's confidence in that. That for the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land of brooks of water, of fountains and springs flowing out in the valleys and the hills, a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey, a land in which you will eat bread without scarcity, in which you will lack nothing, a land whose stones are iron and out of whose hills you can dig copper, and a land, and you shall eat and be full, and you shall bless the Lord your God for the good land he has given you. Oh man. Can you imagine the contrast imagery that Moses is presenting to the children of Israel? He says, look, you've known nothing but desert. You've known nothing but desolation. And in this, Moses is saying, this is where you were, but let me tell you about where you're going. Let me tell you about the land that you are going to possess. I mean, I don't know that there's many fig trees and olive trees and pomegranates in the desert, but Moses is saying, but look where you're going. What God has for you beyond the wilderness is really beyond anything that you can imagine. And to my, just to my humanness, I'm just like, I'm naturally critical in nature. It's just who I am. I'm usually a first to see a hole or to see a reason why something shouldn't work, and I have to combat that. If Ted Lasso taught me anything, it was don't bring an umbrella to a brainstorm, right? Like, you know, just there's times where you just gotta like compress it down. Like the time to poke holes is gonna come, but in times like let's just enjoy, okay? Let's just enjoy. But in this, as Moses is even saying these words, like there's a part of me that's just like, yeah, but really? I mean, 40 years of wandering in the wilderness, 40 years of really not having much of anything, 40 years of just being in a temporary, and I'm supposed to believe that we're moving to this. But the answer to that is yes. This is what God has for you. And to be honest, as we kind of fast forward to here we are right here, right now, we're not reading from Deuteronomy. We're talking about us and real life personal experiences. I'm not really for certain that there is on this side of heaven a way to just show this to you. I don't think there's a way that I can explain it in any kind of earthly realm. And so what I want to do for just a moment is I want us to soak in some scripture for just a second, because I want to read to you from the book of Revelation. It's where John is given a glimpse into what life will be like one day. It's where John is given this viewpoint of what it's going to be like when heaven and earth meet again. It says, then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride is adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He'll dwell with them. They will be his people. And God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. And neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore, for the former things have passed away. And he who was seated on the throne said, behold, I am making all things new. And also he said, write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. And he said to me, it is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty, I will give from the spring of the water of life without payment. The one who conquers will have this heritage, and I will be their God, and they will be my children. In verse 9, he continues, and then came one of the angels, saying, come, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb. And he carried me away in the Spirit to a great high mountain, and he showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, having the glory of God, its radiance like a most rare jewel, like a jasper, clear as crystal. It had a great high wall with 12 gates. And at the 12 gates, there were angels, and on the gates, the names of the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel were inscribed. And on the east, there were 3 gates. On the north, 3 gates. On the south, 3 gates. And on the west, 3 gates. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the 12 names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. He also measured its wall, and the wall was built of jasper, while the city was pure gold, just like clear glass. The foundations of the wall of the city, well, they were adorned with every kind of jewel. The first was jasper, the second, sapphire, the third, agate, the fourth, emerald, the fifth, onyx, the sixth, carnelian, the seventh, chrysolite, the eighth, beryl, the ninth, topaz, the 10th, chrysoprase, the 11th, jacinth, and the 12th, amethyst. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls, each of the 12 gates made of a single pearl. And the street of the city was like pure gold, just like transparent glass. And in this city, I saw no temple, for its temple is the Lord God, the Almighty, and the Lamb. And the city, well, it has no need of a sun or moon to shine upon it, for the glory of God gives it light, and its lamp is the Lamb. By its light, the nations will walk, and the kings of this earth, they will bring their glory into it, and its gates will never be shut, and there will be no night there. You see, as Moses begins to contrast what life in the wilderness looks like compared to the promised land, I think in a lot of ways we need this reminder of what our future holds. That I don't know what the circumstances of your wilderness look like, but if I can say something with confidence, it would be this: your best days still lie ahead of you. Your best days still lay ahead of you. I caught a small shadow, really, a small glimpse of this yesterday with my son, Jack. I see Monica and Jeffrey over there. They had a birthday party for Sweet Marlowe yesterday, and it was awesome. It was so much fun, and there was a bouncy castle, and you know, what 3-year-old is not living their best life in a bouncy castle? And in this, Jack's my firstborn, and so I'm in that like still protective dad mode, right? I don't want anything to harm him, anything to go. Well, he's jumping in the bouncy castle and doing this, and there's big kids in there, bigger kids, and they're talking about dodgeball, and Jack is totally oblivious to what dodgeball means, and I'm just like, hey, I'm about to learn a valuable lesson in hanging and rolling with the big boys, right? You know, if you can't run with the big dogs, like stay on the porch, okay? But in that, he's going for it, and I didn't try to explain. It was just one of those like, just let it happen. It'll be fine. But I'm watching, right? Keeping an eye on. Well, it didn't even have anything to do with dodgeball, but inevitably, like kids just bump into each other. They're bouncing around. They're like you've seen a bouncy castle. In this, so Jack kind of like somebody's head pops up against his mouth and it just, the tears begin. And you know that like checklist as a parent, you're like, okay, how bad is this? Is it really bad? Like, is there any blood? Like, I don't know. And he's just crying. It's like, come here, come here, come here. And all he wants, like, just pick me up, pick me up, pick me up. So I'm picking him up, we're doing the check. Like, okay, is there blood? No. Like you envision, like, I bet there's teeth like coming through his tongue. Like that's how bad it is, right? That's what you're like gearing up for. And then all of a sudden, like you're pulling a lip down and it's nothing, no blood. And it's like, hey buddy, you're okay. And En is like just weeping. I mean, like Haley saw, like En is just weeping. All of a sudden he stops and he's like, I want my juice. It's like, okay, well, I think we're good. So just set him down. He takes off running. He goes and gets his juice. Well, I walk over to him because he's got his juice box, still living his best life again. I take my sleeve and I kind of pull it down and I get one side of his face, just, wiping all those tears off of him. And he stands up and then he looks at me and he's like, Dada, you need to get my other cheek. It's like I'm at a child's birthday party right now. Like I did not sign up for this, like just this visual that I get from you today, but just, he looks at me and just, Dada, you need to wipe the other side. Dada, you need to take care of this side too. And it's just like floored me in this moment of realizing that, man, this is how we will be. That one day in full view of God and man, no separation, no mourning, no pain. We're not dealing with just like, can I say this? We're not dealing with the crap of this world anymore. But now in full view of God and the radiance that he shines, there's no sun, there's no moon because he is our light. That it's in that moment that we'll go, like, Dad, wipe the other cheek too. You know, wipe these tears from me. You see, this is this visual that we get of our future. This is what we're given by John through his vision. But folks, whether you're walking through a wilderness or not, don't forget that your best days are still in front of you. No matter what you may be experiencing, no matter what you have experienced, and life is good right now, your best days are still in front of you. Now, Moses, he continues his words to the Israelites. And, for those of you who are walking a wilderness right now, or for those of you who have been fortunate enough to see kind of on this side of heaven that kind of come to an end and you being able to move forward. Well, these next words, they serve as two things. They serve as a warning and a reminder. Really, the reminder should come first because that's a good thing, but the warning comes if you don't remember the reminder, right? So it continues. This is what Moses says back in Deuteronomy 8. He says, take care lest you forget the Lord your God by not keeping his commandments and his rules and his statutes, which I've commanded you today. It says, lest when you've eaten and you're full and you've built good houses and you live in them, and when your herds and your flocks, they multiply, and your silver and your gold is multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied, and then your heart will be lifted up, and you forget that the Lord your God, the one who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery, the one who led you through the great and terrifying wilderness. And I love this detail. It goes with the fiery serpents and the scorpions. I'm like, oh, it's enough for me. I'm out. He says, in the thirsty ground where there was no water, who was it that brought you water out of the rock, who fed you in the wilderness with manna that your fathers did not know of, that he might humble you and test you? Again, not the kind of testing that we think, but to reveal this remembrance of what God has asked us to do. He says it was with a purpose. It was to do you good in the end. He says, but beware. Beware lest you say in your heart that my power and the might of my hand have gotten me this wealth. And you think, oh, isn't that just like humanity? Don't we have a way of misremembering the past at times, of thinking that it was my strength, that it was my endurance, that it was my ability to get me through whatever it was that we walked through? How quickly we can sometimes forget that we are not the great deliverer of our lives. He continues, he says, you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may confirm his covenant that he swore to your fathers, just as it is this day. Here comes the warning. And if you forget the Lord your God and you go after other gods and you serve them and worship them, he says, I warn you today, you shall surely perish, just like the nations that the Lord makes to perish before you. So it shall be with you, because you would not obey the voice of the Lord your God. And so if I'm going to put this into just memorable terms, something that you can take with you, know this: depending on God delivers me in the desert. Depending on God delivers me in the desert, but depending on me, it will destroy me in the promised land. Depending on God is what will deliver you through your wilderness moments, because it's really all that you've got. But in those moments, for those of you who are fortunate enough to see the other side, on this side of heaven, dependence on you after that fact will be your demise. Be careful. Be careful. Be careful lest you think that you are your great deliverer. So how do we kind of bring this home? Let me give you just a couple of application points today. First of all, for those of you who are still currently facing the wilderness, here's what I have for you today, is this. It's take heart. Take heart. Because I know that this life, that there comes a lot of suffering. I mean, if you don't want to take my word for it, that's totally fine. You can take the words of Jesus from it. Because he says this. Jesus says, in this world, you will have trouble. Catch that? In the world, you what? Oh, come on now. That was your part. In the world, you will have trouble. But just as we can be confident in the one who said this first sentence, we can also be confident in the one who says this second sentence says, but take heart. I've overcome the world. It may not take away your circumstances. It may not take away these things that you wouldn't choose for yourself. It may not take any of it away. But what it can do is it can sustain you for another day to keep moving forward and to keep walking hand in hand with what God would have for you. And then, for those of you who have been in the wilderness before, and you have been fortunate to make your way out of the wilderness, you have seen God deliver you from whatever set of circumstances were in front of you. I have something for you today too, and it is this. It's don't forget to remember. Don't forget to remember God's previous faithfulness. Don't forget to remember that God is the great deliverer in your life, not you. So when I say don't forget to remember, don't forget to remember the one who provided for you in your wilderness. When I say don't forget to remember, don't forget to remember those people who showed up in your life that in a moment that seemed very random, seemed, why is this person back into my life? Or why has this new person been introduced into my life, all to find out that they were the person that was going to walk alongside you in your wanderings, because you find out that they have walked and wandered the very same wilderness that you are in right now, or that you were in before. Don't forget to remember those people in your life. Don't forget to remember. For those of you who are on the other side of the wilderness, don't forget to remember that there is a whole world of people around you that are currently walking the wilderness that you once wandered. So, to that, it may mean a couple of things. For some of you, it may be doing a little business with God and reevaluating where you stand right now. And not just reevaluating, but revisiting that the very ground that you stand on, you didn't get there under your own power. And so it may mean taking a moment and saying, God, I have forgotten that you are my great deliverer, but I don't want to forget to remember again. For some of you, it may mean a phone call or two this week, that you just pick up the phone. And I know this is like so annoying in this day. I've started making phone calls more and more in my life, and I can tell that phone calls are becoming an inconvenience to people at times, but I'm telling you, a phone call is a great thing every now and then. But to pick up the phone and say, hey, I want you to know that I haven't forgotten what you did for me. They may not have been your deliverer, but you say, I haven't forgotten the way that you walked alongside me in my life. And for some of you, it may mean using your story and using your journey to help somebody else navigate. It's what I love about these care groups that we're starting. It's because it's people like you who use their wilderness moments not just to look at how good God has been to them, but that use their wilderness moments to take that and to leverage it to help somebody else out of their wilderness. And let me tell you, if you're struggling to find that, come and see one of us, because we can point you to a number of people who have walked a wilderness. And chances are, if you tell us your story, we can point to a few people who share maybe not the exact same story, but who share very similar circumstances. If you're looking to do that in your life, I know some middle school and I know some high school students who are currently walking the wilderness of life, because the teenage years in 2022 are the toughest years that they've ever experienced, because they don't know any different. But they need somebody like you to come in and to walk alongside them. There are people in our city and in our community that are longing to experience the type of community that you know through the local church, and they are waiting on you to invite them into your homes and into your lives to be able to share these blessings that you have on the other side of the wilderness. So, I want to invite our band back out. We're going to wrap up today. We're going to take communion in just a second. So if you've got that with you as you walked in the doors, or if you're at home or tuning in a little bit later in the week, we'd love for you to be a part of this moment as well. If you don't have one of those cups, you're here in the house, just kind of raise your hand. There's some folks around that they want to help you. We want you to all be a part of this moment as well. But in this moment of communion, we have the opportunity to remember what God has done for us spiritually in a way that we could not have done ourselves. The Apostle Paul, he writes this in his letter to the church in Corinth. He says, "And the Lord Jesus, on the night he was betrayed, he took bread. And when he had given thanks, he broke it and said, 'This is my body, which is for you.'" This is for you. Do this in remembrance of me. So I invite you to take the bread and to eat it. In the same way, after supper, he took the cup, saying, "This cup, it is the new covenant in my blood, and do this whenever you drink it in remembrance of me." And to that, I invite you to take the cup and to drink it. Paul concludes the section, and he says, "For whenever you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the Lord's death until he comes." And if I'm going to put it in the context of what we've talked about today, whenever you take this bread and drink this cup, what you are doing is you are remembering what your God has done for you. I'm going to turn it over to this team. We're going to sing two songs. The first one may be a song that you don't know, but I hope that you grab onto. It's a song that we're going to sing over us in Good Friday, but more than just preparing you for a worship service in the future, I want you to realize that the words that we're going to sing, will they prepare us for the destiny in which we are called to. We're going to proclaim that Jesus is that Lamb that stood in our place, and we're going to proclaim that that Lamb has been taken and seated on the throne, not before, but forever. not for somebody else, but for you and for me and for the entire world. Would you stand with us and sing?
See him there, the great I am, a crown of thorns upon his head, the Father's heart displayed for us. Oh God, we thank you for the cross. Lifted up on Calvary's hill, we cursed your name, and even still you bore our shame and paid the cost. Oh God, we thank you for the cross. Sing out with us, behold the Lamb. Behold the Lamb, the story of redemption written on his hands. Jesus, you will reign forevermore. The victory is yours. We sing your praise, endless hallelujahs to your holy name. Jesus, you will reign forevermore. The victory is yours. All for love, this sacrifice for every sin. Our Savior died, the Lord arrived, can be contained. Our God has risen from the grave. Sing it again. Oh, our God has risen from the grave. Behold the Lamb, the story of redemption written on his hands. Jesus, you will reign forevermore. The victory is yours. We sing your praise, endless hallelujahs to your holy name. Jesus, you will reign forevermore. The victory is yours. When the age of death is done, we'll see your face, bright as the sun. We'll bow before the King of Kings. And oh God, forever we will sing. Let him hear us this morning. Behold. Behold the Lamb, the story of redemption written on his hands. Jesus, you will reign forevermore. The victory is yours. Sing, behold, behold the Lamb, the story of redemption written on his hands. Jesus, you will reign forevermore. The
and stars, they wept. The morning sun was dim. The Savior of the world was fallen. His body on the cross, his blood poured out for us. The weight of every curse upon him. One final breath he gave as heaven looked away. The Son of God was laid in darkness. A battle in the grave. The war on death was waged. The power of hell forever broken. The ground began to shake. The storm was rolled away. His perfect love could not be overcome. Now death, where is your sting? Our resurrected King has rendered you defeated. Forever he is glorified. Forever he is lifted high. Forever he is risen. He is alive. He is alive. The ground begins to shake. The storm was rolled away. His perfect love could not be overcome. Now death, where is your sting? Our resurrected King has rendered you defeated. Forever he is glorified. Forever he is lifted high. Forever he is risen. He is alive. He is alive. We sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah. The Lamb is overcome. We sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah. We sing hallelujah. The Lamb is overcome. Forever he is glorified. Forever he is lifted high. Forever he is risen. He is alive. He is
Yeah, Jesus, we thank you that is so true of you today. Lord, that you've conquered death. Lord, you stand in victory, and it's because you stand in victory, Jesus, that we can stand in victory. And so, Jesus, over the situations and circumstances in our life, Lord, we ask for your presence this week. Lord Jesus, we know that each of us have hurts in this room. And Lord, I'm just so glad that you walk alongside of us, Lord, and that we can say today that we stand right in the midst of your love. We love you today, Jesus. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Well, hey guys, you don't need to be seated. I just have one quick thing before you go, and just a reminder, especially if something, Trent said today, struck your heart. Sign up for one of those care groups. If one of the ones we mentioned earlier was a space of need, we would love for you guys to get involved in that. We'll see you guys next week.